What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports. We are here on the SEC channel, on the Texas A&M channel, at the voice of college football. If you're a Texas A&M fan, please subscribe to our Texas A&M channel. Help us to build that channel and get it to 1,000 subscribers. In this video, we're going to take a look at Texas A&M's schedule and what their projected record is for the upcoming 2022 college football season. Here were the projections before the 2021 season. As you see here, Texas A&M going 8-4. Our projection was 9-3, doing what we're about to do in just a second for 2022. Our prediction was 10-2. I thought this team would go 10-2. FBI had them at 9.6 and 2.7, so 9-3, 10-2, somewhere in there. And then the over/under was 9.5. They finished a game and a half under that. Now, of course, the predictions, the projections, they didn't take into account Haynes King going down with an injury. Don't really know how good he was going to be last season. Of course, we just didn't get much of a sample size, so it's hard to say what would have happened with Texas A&M had he been healthy. And they had a lot of injuries in other areas as well, especially the secondary. But this was a team that was really hyped up going into last year. I did predict them to go 10-2, but I was actually on the lower end. A lot of people had them going 11-1, maybe going undefeated, and they showed that potential by beating Alabama. But at the same time, they showed that this was not a team that was on that elite level last season, even with the injuries. Even if they had not had the injuries, I don't believe this team would have been a playoff team, but they could have gotten to that 10-2 mark. But yeah, this was a team that was really hyped up. They're going to be hyped up again coming into this year with that great recruiting class. They put a few together now in a row, and so there is a lot of young talent on this team. But let's see what the projection would tell us with this schedule. Again, a very tough SEC West schedule. This is that schedule, and this is the scale that we'll be using. So your 50-50 games will be in white. If it's less than 20% or more than 80%, that means it's a guaranteed win or a guaranteed loss. If it's in the 20-29% range or the 71 to 80% range, that's a game where I think a team is going to be favored by about 10, double digits, 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. And then if it's in that 30 to 39 or 61 to 70%, that is a game where I think a team is only going to be favored by 6, 7, 8 points, about a touchdown. And that's kind of a way to look at this as we do these projections. Then we'll average it out. The green games will be counted as wins. The red will be counted as losses. There will be no red games for Texas A&M, but there will be 3 green games. Sam Houston, Appalachian State, and UMass. Texas A&M should have no trouble in these games. Now, App State is obviously closer to 80% than 100%, whereas Sam Houston and UMass are closer to 100%. But I think all 3 of these games would fit in this green category. So 3 wins, 3 pretty easy wins for Texas A&M. App State, I wouldn't say an easy win, not a guaranteed win, but Texas A&M should win that game. We go to the blue games now, and actually first we're going to go with the orange. So we have one game where they're going to be a decent underdog, and that's against Alabama, 20 to 29% range here. So that means I believe that Alabama will be about a 10-point favorite in this game. It's a revenge game for Alabama. It's on the road for Texas A&M. I know they beat them last season, but you look at everything that Alabama has coming back, they're going to be favored. It could be one that should be in the yellow once we get into the season and everything. We'll kind of obviously find out more about these teams, but looking at it right now, I think this is probably a game that belongs in the orange. So how about the games in the purple? 61 to 70%. That's the majority of the schedule for Texas A&M. So I think Texas A&M is going to be about a touchdown favorite, 6, 7, 8 points in most of their games. We're talking about Miami at home, Mississippi State on the road, South Carolina on the road, Ole Miss at home, Florida at home, Auburn on the road, and LSU at home. Now some of these, there's just so many unknowns. How good's Auburn going to be after their mess this offseason? LSU with a new coaching staff, a bunch of transfers. Ole Miss will have a new quarterback. Florida with a new head coach. South Carolina with some transfers that could make them really interesting. Mississippi State's one team that I think we do know a lot about, and this is a Mississippi State team that beat Texas A&M last season. So again, a lot of unknowns here, but I think that just looking at it right now and where everyone is projecting Texas A&M to be, they're projected to be a top 10 team. I think they're probably going to be favored in these games, in Miami in there as well. Whereas I think Arkansas is more of a 50-50 game. I've seen Arkansas ranked pretty high in these early polls. I think that this is a team that is probably going to be a top 15 team. It's a team that beat Texas A&M last season. So I would probably, if we were really breaking down the percentages, I think I would probably favor Texas A&M in this game, looking at it right now. But it's close, and I think it's close enough to where this would be a 50-50 game, a game that would stay in the white. So when you average all this out, we count the green games as wins, and then we average the other games out. We use 50% for the Arkansas game, 25% for Alabama, 65% for these games in purple. And when you do that, it comes out to 9-3. So the projection for Texas A&M, 9-3 for 2022. This is the exact same projection that they had last season. It's a similar spot when you look at their early ranking, where we expect them to be. They're in a similar spot that they were last season, and it's a similar schedule. So that's kind of makes sense that their record would be 9-3, or at least a projected record would be 9-3. 9-3 was high for this team last year, even though it was lower than what most people predicted. So the projection was really more accurate than most people predicted last season. We'll find out if that holds true again this year, or if they can do better than this 9-3 projection, or maybe they do worse again. Maybe they finish 8-4 again. It's a team that has a lot of potential, but a lot of young pieces, and I think a 9-3 projection is pretty good. So if they do better than that, it's a good season. Worse than 9-3, it's a bad season. What are your thoughts? What do you think the projection should be for Texas A&M? 9-3, do you think that's accurate, or are you thinking higher or lower? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.